It is BKFC middleweight champion Francesco Ricchi. Francesco, I mean, undefeated thus far in BKFC, 5-0 run. I mean, just keep getting better and better. What is it about this sport that clicked with you? I mean, it's kind of new to everybody, right? But you seem to be taking it by storm. So what is it about the sport that, man, you just took right to it?
Dude, to be honest with you, I actually had my pro debut back in the end of 2019, and the matchmaker reached out to me after. The matchmaker for BKFC reached out to me after and asked me if I wanted to fight BKFC, and I'm like, well, yeah, sure, depending what the show money would be. So I did the first fight, was a first round knockout. That was back when Hector Lombard also debuted, and then since then here we are. I mean, I've had a couple ups and downs, but thankfully still undefeated. I actually ended up my second fight was a pretty tough one. I ended up in the hospital, but was still able to persevere, win that fight, and now my last fight was for a title, and then here we are. I'm defending it for the first time in the Hard Rock in December. So
All right. Ended up in the hospital might be a little bit of a mild way to put it. I mean, medically induced coma for a while, right? I did want to ask you about that. I mean, when that happens, is there any part of you that goes, maybe this just isn't worth it? Like, this might not be the career path for me.
nah, not really. I feel like us fighters in general are, I don't want to say suicidal, but we kind of forfeit our life when we walk in there and start fighting anyways. And I mean, that one was a pretty weird one. I got cracked in the throat in the first round, and then I got this lovely scar to show for it. And then I couldn't breathe until I made it back to the corner, and then my cornerman gave me some water, and then finally I was able to come alive and capitalize and take my opponent out in the next round. But after the fight, I drove myself to the hospital because it was just getting worse and worse. Every hour that the adrenaline would wear off, and everything would just kind of set in, I had a secretion that was making its way in my lungs, making it harder to breathe. And I actually barely made it to the hospital. I passed out in the waiting room. And then I woke up 3 weeks later. I woke up in December. And I'm thinking that it's the next day, and I'm like ready to go to the gym, and then bring the bare knuckle medallion that they give us after every fight, and get back to training. And then the lady there, she calls me Hector, which was the first big red flag. I'm like, something's wrong here. So she goes, "Do you know what date it is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I do. It's November 14th." She was just like, "Oh God." She's like, "No, it's not." So yeah, I lost a shit ton of weight. It was a big recovery process. I mean, it took me just to start walking again. It took me a couple weeks after that. But when I saw my fight, the only thing that I wanted to do was redeem myself. I made mistakes in that fight that I hadn't made even in my first amateur fight. I was crossing my feet, chin up in the air. I did just really mediocre mistakes, and I just wanted to go back out there and not prove to the fans who I am. Because to be very honest with you, I'm not. I have a lot of my own personal friends and family that come watch me fight, but not a lot of people know who I am in the combat sports world, at least not yet. But I just wanted to go back out there and at least make my coach proud, because I feel like I represented my gym wrong in that fight. But at least I had the heart and determination to keep going and finally winning that fight in what was actually a pretty gruesome fight. I mean, my opponent, Noah Cutter, he's a tough bastard, but if you see his face, it looked like something out of a horror movie after that fight.
Unbelievable, Will, man. And then obviously things have gone well since then. Claimed the title last time out against a really tough guy in Yuli Diaz. I know, you kind of said afterwards you never make it, not quite 100% coming into that. But I guess, I mean, knowing that a very, very tough guy, you weren't quite 100%. I guess, what did you think about your performance and the result?
The performance went great, actually. That was the one fight that I don't think could have went any better, because I tore my ACL 3 weeks before that fight. And my coach, I have the MRI. I think Joe Miggs put it up, but I had the MRI from June 6th, and then the fight was June 24th. And my coach was like, "Dude, don't take this fight. We're undefeated. We're doing good. You're not going to get another opportunity to fight for the belt again." And I told him, I'm like, "Well, that goes both ways. I wouldn't get another opportunity if I don't take this fight either for maybe, another 6 months, maybe a year." So I'm like, you know what? I'll do what I need to do. And I actually didn't spar until the week of the fight, which, to be very honest with you, looked like, if anything, it helped. So I went out there with somebody like Yuli, who hits hard, man. Like, the thing about Yuli is you can't make one mistake. I mean, especially in bare knuckle, but he's fast and he hits really, really hard. So I think he's a very efficient style for this sport. So I went out there, thankfully didn't get hit too much, and I was able to put him away early. So he's also a friend. So it was nice that it ended the way it did, without one of us going unconscious, or without it being a dragged out beating. So it went pretty well. And then me and him are still friends now. We actually watch the fights either here at my house or at his house every Saturday. So
That's awesome. By the way, you're the king of the understatement. You say, "Well, I ended up in the hospital." Yeah, you were in a coma for 2 weeks. I was not quite 100%. I tore my ACL. I mean, go ahead and give it the leverage it needs, man. I mean, that's some serious stuff.
You know, I was actually talking to my coach about it the other day. These are things that, to be honest with you, John, if I lost that fight, I would never have brought them to light. You know, if I lost the fight with Yuli, I would have never said that, hey, I tore my ACL, because I feel like once you sign and you show up and you weigh in and you shake hands with your opponent and you're about to go out there and fight, you agree. You're like, hey, fuck it. You know, the circumstances are what they are. I know what I'm in for. And if you lose, you lose. There's really no way around it. If, you know, somebody loses a fight and then all of a sudden accuses their opponent, this guy was on steroids. It's like, all right, well, there's a chance that he might have been on steroids before the fight. You already know that we don't get tested or don't get tested as much. You wouldn't have been saying that if you won the fight. I feel like, you know, you need to go in there and not make an excuse as to why you lost. And that's why I'm pretty sure if I would have lost the fight, I would have never said, hey, listen, this happened. This is why I lost the fight. So the whole thing with like Yuli, I just feel like it was a big risk and it paid off, a huge reward. So I'm able to actually tell people, listen, of course, this is a great achievement. Winning the bare knuckle middleweight title is a great achievement, especially somebody I'm the first Italian champion, like born in Italy, came here. It's a great achievement, but if you knew what we had to go through, or like the uphill battle that we were presented with in training camp, it was even bigger. I mean, fuck. I was taking ice baths every single night and bike riding 10 miles a day just to try to get my knee to recover as fast as we could. We were doing like cold lasers on it every single night, and I wasn't walking until like 18 days, like 18, 19 days out from the fight. Matter of fact, the first time I moved without the knee brace was fight night. The first time that I moved without any kind of sport brace was fight night. So taking all those things into consideration, the fact that the fight went the way that it went, and I won in the first round against a monster like Yuli, yeah, that fight definitely went as well as it could have went.
Oh, man, that's crazy. All right, well, you're back in action on December 3rd as BKFC 34, Seminole Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida. Title defense, right? So is the energy any different? I mean, does it have a different emotion for you, a different feel of it, or is it just, you know, just another fight for you?
Not at all. I mean, I guess somebody's coming to take what I have, and I got to defend home turf, but not really. I'm just somebody else that I'm getting paid to beat up, and, you know, the energy is still the same. I want to still put on just as much of a show and show that I'm just as hungry before I won the belt than after, because I feel like I'm not getting I don't want to say I'm not getting the recognition, but I feel like I'm not one of those household names yet, you know, like the Palominos, these other guys that everybody knows in the sport. Whenever you talk about bare knuckle, everybody knows who Joey Beltran is, who all these guys are. And I feel like eventually people are going to say, hey, the middleweight champion, that's the guy we want to watch. So until I get to that point where I'm like walking through the grocery store and people are stopping me for an autograph, I'm going to just, you know, keep quietly taking people out left and right until I finally achieve that stardom. And then who knows, man, maybe it might be on to the next one.
I love it, man. That's a fantastic attitude. All right, we'll talk about the matchup here, David. He's been on a nice little run as well. I mean, what do you think about him as an opponent? Does he present some things that maybe you haven't seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty tough. He's got his own tricky little style. I feel like he avoids the fight a lot. You know, he tries to get his opponent to come in, and he tries to sit on the outside until he sees an opportunity, and then he lunges forward and tries to capitalize on it. But I think I have the style to beat him. He actually fought a good friend of mine, my best friend Marcos Lareda. He's always in my corner, and I was actually in his corner when he fought David Mundell in Tampa. And shit, man, I remember being in the corner. I was like, fuck, man, I would love to get a crack at this guy, just because it sucks. Obviously, like when you're behind the fence and you're seeing, you know, your teammate losing, and you can't really do anything about it. But it's just, you know, it's the nature of the sport. That's why I don't even know how people can corner their husband or their wife. That would be brutal, you know. And I remember thinking back then, I was like, fuck, man, I'd love to make this guy pay. And then after that, me and Mundell became friends. You know, me and his coach, Jeff Bailey, were always fucking around with each other, sending each other memes. And then a good friend of mine, Gustavo Trujillo, he's the Cuban assassin. He's in bare knuckle. He trained with them for a while. So we're friends after all that. But it'll feel good to at least, you know, get redemption for the gym.
No question about it. Yeah, it's crazy, man. You guys will go in there and fight, you know, without worrying about a single thing. But when it's somebody you care about and you can't do anything, it's the most helpless feeling, right? It's the weirdest thing about this sport.
Yep, exactly. There's not really much you can do except for, you know, there's not really much you can do when the fight time comes around. But before the fight, you know, you got to make sure you get the repetitions, you know, you don't cut any corners, and then you go in there and then trust your cornerman blindly that they got you ready for the dance. So.
Great way to say it. All right, well, you talked about it, man. You're trying to get this recognition, trying to get the respect you deserve. I mean, a win here, a title defense certainly goes towards that. I mean, you've got to take care of the task at hand, but are you looking forward? I mean, the champ thing is kind of a trend. I mean, are you looking to maybe change divisions, or is it just like, let's take out everybody in this division? I mean, what do you see the path for yourself?
To be honest with you, John, I want to be active. Anybody that they give me, I've never shied away or said no. Fuck, I've even had a fight where I had like 5 opponent changes last minute. I've never said no or turned anybody down. And I've actually fought 3 years through the ACL injury. I've actually got the ACL replaced back in September. So like now I'm not even 3 months out from the ACL injury, and I'm fighting in December, which is, you know, maybe not what my doctor wanted me to do, but I feel good. And I just want to be active. You know, this is going to be my 3rd time fighting in a year, and I want to keep the ball rolling. I want to fight another 3 times next year, maybe even 4 times if I could. I don't want to be one of those guys that wins a title and then all of a sudden sits on the sidelines and waits for them to make an interim title or for like something else to come along. I want to fight the guys that they put in front of me, and then the champ thing, 100%. I would love to go up. I mean, I want to try to push the mark as much as I could. I want to set the record as high as I can, and even after I beat whatever fucking record I set out to beat, I still want to beat my own record so that the next person that follows my footsteps is going to have a much harder time catching up to what I've done. Not to mention the fact that the champ thing, yeah, that's great, but as of right now, there's plenty of people in my division that I need to, you know, silence and make sure once there's a top 5 and I'm lapping people and there's no new blood, then I can think about going up. Almost like how Adesanya did it. You know, Adesanya, he defended the title 2-3 times, and then there was nobody else for him to fight there. And he's like, hey, you know what? Let me go up and fight Jan Blachowicz. So that's more or less how I'd want to do it. I'd want to do pretty much everything David puts in front of me. Every contract he sends my way, just sign it and make sure there's enough zeros at the end. And then, you know, whenever they tell me, hey, listen, like go up and wait and fight this person or that person, whether it be Mike Richmond or Lorenzo Hunt, whoever has the title at that time, you know, then we take that one by storm, and I'll win that fight too. And who knows, maybe 3 division champ.
I love that attitude. By the way, how does the conversation go with the doctor when you say, Doc, I know I just had this ACL done. It's been like 2.5 months now, and I'm thinking about taking a bare knuckle boxing match. Oh, by the way, it's a championship level. It's not against some newbie. What do you think about that?
What conversation?
I love it. Well, listen, I know you want to get the win here. I will say one thing, and just say you'll take on anybody. I got to imagine at some point you're trying to tell Dave to take this thing to Italy, right?
Oh, 100%. Dude, I was born very close to the Coliseum. The place in Italy where I was born, or like the street we used to live, is Via Cortina d'Ampezzo. It's like walking distance from the Coliseum, from the center of Rome. And me and my girlfriend, we were just there. A buddy of mine got married. So a couple of months ago, we went there, and I have a picture on my Instagram of me bringing the belt right in front of the Coliseum. So I would love to do something in Rome or anywhere in Italy for that fact. And I feel like as many tickets as I sell down here in Miami, I feel like I would sell even more there in Italy. So I would love to. But like I said, you know, there's obstacles and hurdles to jump. Hopefully after this fight, maybe we could start talking about bringing it across the pond seriously, you know?
I'd love to. It seems like, I mean, obviously you know the temperature for it more than I do, but I know that MMA is still kind of relatively new, but kickboxing and striking sports, they've known for a long time. It seems like something that would fit right in.
Absolutely. And Bellator started to go over to Italy a couple times now. I think this is their 2nd time in Italy this year. So Bellator started going over there. Cage Warriors is a big one. It's almost like a PFL would be over here. So Cage Warriors is a big one over there. I'm thinking that people are going to start bringing more and more, especially now there's a new wave of younger athletes that are learning all facets of mixed martial arts instead of having the guys that just are wrestlers that turn into kickboxers, or like kickboxers that came and learned how to defend takedowns. I think now there's a new wave of younger athletes that are learning every facet of mixed martial arts, and they're actually going pretty far, man. There's some guys that are undefeated that are even in the top ranks. There's a guy, Dylan Hazan. He trains there at Aura MMA, which is in Rome, a friend of mine's gym, and he's up there pretty high. I think he's 13 or 14-0, and he's fighting for a title sometime soon for actually, I'm sorry, not Bellator, Cage Warriors. So there's some good guys over there, and I hope soon enough we can bring BKFC to Italy. I mean, hell, my inbox gets flooded, especially right after the fights, from like a bunch of people that are fight fans or MMA fighters that are in Italy, and they're like, dude, I'm dying to get in BKFC. When are you guys coming over here? How do I get in BKFC? I'll even pay for my own ticket to like fly across, you know, to the States, just as long as I can get in there and fight. So I hope that soon enough we can do it. I mean, hell, Dave did London back in August, you know, and he's having another event actually next week in London. So hopefully soon enough we can go over there where we have really good food.
That's when you fight for the heavyweight title, right? You move up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, hopefully that happens. I think it'd be great. It's great to see the sport growing around the world. But obviously, first and foremost, you got to get this title defense done on December 3rd. I guess last thing I'll ask you, I mean, when you play this thing out, what do you see? I mean, we've seen you in some grinding battles. We've seen you in some quick finishes. How are you seeing this one play out?
I don't think that this one's going to make it to the distance. I think that that's going to be the biggest challenge. I think Dave is very good at not taking risks in a fight, Dave Mundell, and I think I'm very good at creating risks in a fight. So I think that it's going to be a battle of will. But if I had to guess, it'll definitely be a finish within the 5 rounds, maybe second or third round.
I love it, man. Well, we're definitely looking forward to it. It's December 3rd, Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, or live on the BKFC app, of course. Francesco, appreciate the time. Best of luck, and we'll definitely be watching.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, John.